Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'll be showing you these tropical nails. So I am just going to jump right into it. I realized that doing the filing and the buffing and everything was kind of getting a bit repetitive, so I'm just going to jump right in, and I am starting with a white gel to go on the bottom. I am using neon pigments in this design over here, and when using colors that are very white based or very bright like pastels or neons, it's a good idea to put them over a white base. It just helps the colors pop. I mentioned this in previous videos before, and because I am going to be using neon pigments, they need something to grip to, so they're going to grip to the sticky layer that shows up after these are cured, and by putting them on a white base, their colors are just going to really pop a lot. So just going to do that here. And here are the neon pigments that I am going to be using. I believe I got these in a Etsy subscription box a couple months ago. And I wanted to go for kind of like a sunset vibe. So I pulled out the blues, purples, oranges, reds, and pinks. Oh, and yellow. I didn't do red, I did yellow. And starting here, I am starting with the orange over here, and I'm using this big fluffy brush. This is actually a makeup brush from the brand Real Techniques. I do see people using those little eyeshadow applicators, and these actually did come with the eyeshadow applicators, but I felt like I wasn't really getting a very smooth distribution of the product. It was coming out a little bit patchy, so I decided to go with this brush over here, this big fluffy brush. It just picks up the product and distributes it a little bit more evenly, and the colors just ended up a lot brighter and smoother. So if you are struggling with those small little spongy applicators, maybe try using a different brush. Because that's definitely how I felt that this worked best. So I'm just using all of these different pigments to create ombres, and once it works together, it really creates such a gorgeous look. Over here you can see that purple that the pink and the blue created. It was really beautiful. And then I kind of made it a bit muddy with the orange, so just going in with the blue over here. These pigments are quite forgiving, so if something just doesn't work out the way you like it, you can remove it easily and redo it, or you can just layer more on top like I did before when I made the blue a little bit muddy. So these are really easy to use. At first I was kind of intimidated by them. They do make a huge mess. I was getting it all over the place, and I was finding neon pigment all over my hands and all over my stuff for days afterwards. So it does make a mess. I do suggest wearing gloves like I am here, and also being careful about where it gets to, because it's quite fluffy. Oh, I do also suggest wearing a mask. The same way you wear a mask when you're filing, I suggest wearing a mask because these are quite poofy, and when you dip the brush in, it gets a little bit puffed up and it can get into your face, and it's not good to inhale those. So I do suggest wearing a mask, and also being careful about where you're putting the pigments and how much they fly. So try to keep it in a contained area, because it does get all over the place. I was finding it for days afterwards, all over the floor and everything. So just be careful with that. Now I'm going in with a top coat, and you can see that the top coat really just brightens up all of the colors, and I put the top coat onto the side on a palette in case there were any loose pigments I didn't want to getting into my gel bottle. And over here now I am going in with some gel paints, and I am going to create some tropical flowers. I showed black in the beginning because I thought I was going to use black. I didn't end up using it, so I just used the pink and the white. And for these designs over here, these hibiscus flowers, I would say it takes a lot of practice to kind of just figure out placement. That was the thing I was struggling with the most, just making sure that all the petals are kind of on the same area so that the flowers come out really nice. But it's just a lot of practice, and I wasn't great at it at first, but you can see throughout this video, as I do it more and more, the flowers come out better and better. So basically, to create these flowers, you are going to do 3 dots per petal. So basically it's going to be 2 dots next to each other, and then as you can see here, 1 dot on top of it that connects them. And then you're going to use a fine liner brush and just kind of drag from those dots into the center. So you're going to be doing that before you cure it, and then once you get the flower and the petals the way you like it, then you'll cure it in place. I did also find, as I was doing this, that doing flowers off to the side, like I'm doing here, where it kind of gets cut off by the nail as if it's kind of hanging off the side, was a lot easier for me. Creating the full flowers like I did at first and that I'll do later was a bit harder, because trying to get all of the petals in the right placement was something that I was struggling with. I don't know if that's something you struggled with, or if it's something that is a problem for a lot of people, but it was definitely a struggle for me. I was trying to get it as even as possible to create the flowers perfectly as possible, and that was kind of getting a bit difficult when you have a lot of petals going on. It was hard for me to kind of gauge it and map it out in my head. So by putting the flowers off to the side like this and not creating as many petals, it actually really helped with the design for me, because then the flowers didn't end up so messed up and wonky, because that's what I was kind of struggling with. They were kind of looking a little bit like crushed and like not so round and perfect. So by doing it off to the side like this, it was actually helping a lot. And I was also experimenting with the different amounts of petals. Over here you can see I'm doing 4 petals. On some of them I did 5. I find that 5 actually ended up looking better in the end. The 4 petals looks great too. You can see this one over here, it looks fine. But I think the 5 petal one just kind of looks a little bit more full and pretty, but it is harder, well, it was harder for me at least, to do 5 petals in a full flower, because then it was just a lot more to manage and a lot more to kind of like map out and make into a nice round circle. But as you can see here, like the more I'm doing it, the easier it gets, and like anything else in life, it's just practice and repetition will make things easier. And at the end of the day, like, it's hand-painted art. It's never going to be 1000% perfect unless you're like extremely talented. I have quite shaky hands. You can see here my hands shake a lot, so it's very hard to sometimes, even just to dot down a dot with a dotting tool can sometimes be like a bit of a struggle for me. So if you're struggling with hand-painted art, don't feel bad. Everyone does. And it's just a matter of repetition and practice, and doing a design like this where you're doing a lot of repetition can really help you get your hand art down to a science. So I'm just going back and forth here with the pink and the white gel paints over here. The pink one is from Madam Glam, and I believe the white one is from Accents. Accents is a pro-only brand, so you have to have a nail license to be able to purchase from them. But Madam Glam has so many, and they are not pro-only. You can buy from Madam Glam as just a regular consumer, and they have so many different colors, so many different shades of gel paint. They have like a whole rainbow, so if you're looking for that, I suggest starting there. They have really great quality and really nice prices, very affordable. So for this design over here, those are the colors I'm using. And this flower that I'm doing right now actually, I think, ended up being one of my favorites. And as you can see, it was like off to the side. And with more practice comes better application, and that's just all that it takes. And then over here, after doing a whole bunch of flowers off to the side, I was ready to attempt doing a full flower again because I had gotten some practice. And I decided to map out the initial dots first and then create the petals, as opposed to before where I was doing like each individual petal and then kind of having the flower show up a little bit wonky once I was done. Over here, I kind of just made a full circle first with the dots and then created the petals. And as you can see over here, the flower came out like really great in my opinion, if I do say so myself. I really like how it came out. So sometimes just figuring out your dot placement and your technique and stuff like that will really just make designs easier for you. And the more you do it, the more you figure out what works for you. So as you can see, I'm moving on to the next flower over here. I wanted this flower design to kind of give me the vibes of like a tropical, maybe Hawaiian sunset, which is why I went for these sunset colors like the pink and the yellow, and then the deep blues and purples, kind of like the look of a sunset sky where the sun is setting is usually like orange and pink and yellow, and then as you get away from the sunset and you move towards the opposite horizon, the sky starts getting darker blue and purple, and the stars start coming out. So that was the look I was going for over here. So that's why there are a bunch of different colors going on. I really wanted to capture that sunset vibe, kind of feel like I was on tropical vacation. And now that I am done with all the flowers over here, hibiscus flowers do have this like stem coming out of the middle with extra like I think it's where their pollen is. So I am going to do that over here. So the white flowers are going to get pink dots and the pink flowers are going to get white dots. And once you do this, it actually really makes the whole flower just really come to life. And you can actually use the stem over here to kind of like cover up any mistakes that you made. So if one of your stems or your petals is not looking perfect, not the way you like it, just use the stem to cover over it, and it ends up looking really great, and it really just completes the whole look. And even if it's not perfect, adding the little dots in the center and the stem just really pulls the look together. And again, these are flowers. No flower in nature is absolutely perfect, so your nail art doesn't have to be perfect either. I think the imperfectness is what gives it the perfection. So just moving on through all of these, just adding in the little dots. So you can see over here, I wasn't really loving the shape of that petal over there, so I kind of used the stem to like block it off a bit and kind of re-perfect the shape over there. And also the middles, as you can see, kind of end up looking a little bit messy when you have all those lines and streaks, but once you cover it up with the dots and the stems, then it pulls the whole thing together and it doesn't look so messy. That pink one up in the corner is really grabbing my attention. I really like how that one came out. And I love the ombre. The pigment powders really make ombres super easy. So if you're struggling with ombres, maybe go with that because it can be harder to create ombres with gel polish, but with the pigments, they just blend together so nicely. And now for some final touches, because I love bling, I wanted to add a few gems and a few charms. So I'm adding these flowers. These are not necessarily like tropical flowers, but I wanted to add them in. And here in the center, I'm adding in these colorful bright neon beads over here. So I'm just going to place a whole bunch of them all over, some in flowers, some out of flowers, just adding a few more flowers to the design to give it a bit more texture and depth and a little bit more interest. And I'm trying to do contrasting colors over here so that the charms like pop off the nail. More flowers. This just kind of helps fill in the blanks a little bit and give a little bit more interest to the design. This is obviously a personal choice. If you don't like bling or stuff on your nails, you obviously don't have to add this. It's just a personal choice. I felt like the nails were looking a bit empty, so I wanted to add a few more embellishments to it. I also liked over here, as you can see on the top corner over there, I put the flower really close to the hand-painted one. I thought that was really cute. It kind of made it look like a cluster of flowers. So play around with it, figure out what placements you like, what colors you like. These can obviously be done so many different ways. And here is the final look. I love how this came out. I love the sunset. I love the hibiscus flowers. I love that as I was doing it, I was getting better at it. So let me know in the comments down below if you're going to try this, if you are intimidated by hand art, don't be. Keep going, you got this.